Welcome to the debate. Have you ever tried to access your own criminal record?
Oh, yeah. It is, well, it's not exactly like pulling up a credit score, is it?
No, definitely not. It's much more involved. And so today we are examining the source material that details the U.S. Department of Justice Departmental Order 55673,
Right.
which is, it's a specific legal and operational mechanism that allows an individual to request their own FBI identity history summary.
What most people would just call a rap sheet.
Exactly, a rap sheet or a federal background check. So the question we are debating today centers on the structural design of this entire system.
Right.
Does this three-tiered approach of having a government portal, private channelers, and then direct mail, does that represent a highly flexible, modernized system that empowers citizens with choice?
Or on the flip side, does it create a fragmented, error-prone bureaucracy that essentially commodifies timely access to one's own data?
Right. And I will be arguing that this system is actually a triumph of modern logistical flexibility. I think it successfully leverages both government infrastructure and private enterprise to, dramatically cut down processing times.
And I will be arguing that the system is structurally flawed, creating this inequitable, two-tiered landscape where fast access requires these premium fees, and navigating the bureaucratic traps requires specialized knowledge that, honestly, the average citizen simply does not possess.
Well, to begin, I think we need to understand exactly what Departmental Order 55673 actually built.
Right.
Because this order was established to give citizens the explicit legal right to review their own federal record.
Yeah, which is crucial.
Exactly. A citizen might need to do this to ensure its accuracy, or maybe more commonly, they need to provide a clean, a no-record report for something like a work visa or an international adoption.
Sure, or a foreign employer.
Right, a foreign employer. So to facilitate this on a national scale, the FBI constructed 3 distinct pathways to sort of cater to different user needs. First, you have the eDo portal at edo.cjis.gov, where a user can register online and then submit their physical fingerprints either by mail or electronically at a participating U.S. post office.
Right, that's the first tier.
Yeah, and second, you have FBI-approved channelers, and these are private companies, but they're heavily vetted by the government, and they manage the entire submission for you.
Right.
And then third, you have the traditional route, which is mailing a physical blue and white FT258 fingerprint card directly to the FBI's Criminal Justice Information Services Division.
In West Virginia.
In Clarksburg, West Virginia, yeah. So I look at this structure and I honestly see an incredibly effective model of public-private utility.
Oh, you do?
I do, because before electronic systems were integrated, waits for these summaries could stretch past, 100 days.
Oh, yeah, it was incredibly slow.
Right. But today, through the EDO portal or a channeler, this highly secure biometric database can return a summary in 1 to 5 business days.
And
yet, crucially, the baseline processing fee of $18 remains universally accessible via that traditional mail route. So it offers modernization without, abandoning the baseline public service.
Well, I come at it from a different way.
Okay.
Because I think we have to look past the theoretical design of it and really examine how that so-called universal accessibility functions in reality.
Okay, how so?
Well, yes, the $18 mail route exists on paper, but it is functionally useless for anyone operating on a real-world deadline.
Useless is a strong word.
But think about it. If you need this document for a visa application or, an impending job start date or a time-sensitive adoption, you absolutely cannot afford to wait the weeks it takes for the mail to travel to Clarksburg, sit in a processing queue, and then travel all the way back.
Well, sure, it takes time.
Right. And because of that rigid reality, the system effectively obscures basic access behind third-party paywalls.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. To get practical turnaround times, citizens are pushed, like almost mandated, by circumstance really, into paying premium markups. You either pay an FBI-approved private channeler, companies like Accurate Biometrics, Identigo, Fieldprint.
Right, there are a bunch of them.
Right. Or you use the government's own ESDO portal, but you still get hit with a secondary capture fee of around $50 to the USPS for their electronic service.
Yeah, the live scan.
Exactly. Accessing your own legal standing to ensure its accuracy, that's a fundamental right. But under this structure, you're penalized financially for needing your own information in a practical time frame.
I hear you, but
We have basically commodified access. We're treating a citizen's right to their data as a premium service.
I think we need to dive into the mechanics of why these costs exist, though, because it is entirely driven by the biological reality of the database itself.
The fingerprints.
Right, the fingerprints. In the digital age, we're so accustomed to frictionless access. Like, you want to see your credit report, you just type in a social security number.
Right, a few keystrokes and you're in.
Exactly. But the FBI database isn't unlocked by a password or an SSN. The key is the actual physical ridges on your fingers.
Right, which inherently changes the entire architecture of how a citizen interacts with the state.
Exactly.
When the required input is biometric, the system, it can't just be a website you visit from your couch.
Right.
It requires a physical capture process.
Exactly. And that physical capture is what dictates the tiered system. Let me offer a different way to visualize this pricing structure.
Okay.
Think of the FBI's central database in West Virginia as a massive, highly secure vault.
Okay, a vault.
Right. The $18 government fee is simply the cost of the archivist going into that vault, searching for your file, and handing it back to you. The FBI keeps that fundamental cost strictly at $18.
Mm-hmm.
But because the only key to open this vault is your physical fingerprint, you have to get that key to the archivist.
Right.
You can drop it in an envelope with a stamp, which is the traditional mail route. It's cheap, but it's subject to the speed of the postal service.
Yeah, which can be agonizingly slow.
Sure. Or you can hire an armored car service to transport that key securely and instantaneously.
Ah.
That armored car is the private channeler, or the USPS electronic live scan system. So the premium you pay to Identigo or Fieldprint, it isn't for the data itself. You are paying for the logistical convenience of live scan technology.
The capture part.
Right. The digital optics that map your ridges instantly and beam them to the FBI over a secure network. So by allowing channelers to bundle the $18 fee with their own armored car service charge, the FBI provides a vital pressure release valve for those who need a rapid turnaround, without raising the baseline cost of the government search itself.
Okay, that's a very neat analogy. But the problem is that in the real world, the armored car is the only vehicle allowed to drive over the speed limit.
Well,
And the people who can't afford it are just left stranded.
I wouldn't say stranded.
I mean, if you have the disposable income, say an extra $50 to $80, you get your electronic live scan prints captured, securely beamed to the FBI, and you have your results in 24 to 72 hours.
It is incredibly fast.
It is. But if you are lower income, you are forced to use the ink and paper FD258 card, pay the $18, and just wait.
Yeah.
The FBI requires fingerprints because they don't use names or birthdays, which sure is understandable, but by outsourcing the efficient, modern version of this physical capture to private companies, the government creates an inequitable burden. The market-driven efficiency you're praising is built on a foundation of unequal access.
That's an interesting point, though. I would frame it differently.
How so?
The requirement for physical fingerprints and the resulting logistical challenge isn't some arbitrary hurdle. It is the very mechanism that protects the integrity of the data for everyone, regardless of income.
Okay.
I mean, why doesn't the FBI just pull records by name and date of birth? Because names are incredibly messy.
Sure, people have the same name.
Right. People share identical names. People use aliases, maiden names, middle initials. A name-based search is inherently flawed, and it's prone to returning someone else's criminal history.
Which is a disaster.
Exactly. Ridge patterns do not lie. The reason physical capture is required, and the reason it requires sophisticated technology to do quickly, is because biometric security demands it. The system allows for live scan or rolled ink cards precisely to prevent the catastrophic mistake of attaching the wrong arrest record to your profile.
I don't disagree that ridge patterns offer precision.
Okay.
What I fundamentally disagree with is how unforgiving and brittle the bureaucratic wrapper around those ridge patterns is.
Unforgiving how?
Well, let's look at the actual user experience. Because the traditional $18 route you're defending is filled with these silent bureaucratic traps.
Traps?
Yes, traps. First, the citizen has to figure out if they even need a Departmental Order 55673 request, because many people confuse this with an agency-directed ORI check.
Ah, and we should probably clarify how those differ mechanically?
Absolutely. For those who aren't familiar, an ORI is an originating agency identifier.
Right.
It's essentially a federal routing code. So let's say you're volunteering at a school district or you're applying for a nursing license. The state agency gives you an ORI number.
Okay.
When your fingerprints are run, that ORI code tells the FBI to send your background check directly to that specific agency, completely bypassing you.
Right. The results go straight to the nursing board or the school.
Exactly. Departmental Order 556-73, on the other hand, is specifically designed to send the data back to you, the data subject.
Yes.
But the average citizen doesn't know federal routing terminology. So if a person misunderstands the bureaucracy, say an employer asks for a background check and the applicant initiates a DO 556-73 request when they really needed to use the employer's ORI code, the results come back to the applicant.
Right.
The employer rejects it as unofficial, and they have to start all over.
But I have to push back there.
Okay.
That is a matter of reading the instructions provided by the requesting agency. The FBI clearly delineates on its portal that Order 55673 is exclusively for the subject of the record requesting their own file.
Right, it says that, but
It explicitly warns against using it for employment or licensing if an ORI is required.
reading instructions is one thing, but the strictness extends to every single mechanical step, often resulting in silent, uncommunicated failures.
Like what?
Let's look at the payment methods for the mailed route. You want to pay your $18?
Yeah.
You must use a money order, a certified check, or a highly specific credit card payment form. They reject personal checks entirely.
Right.
If you send a personal check, your entire packet is returned.
Well, because personal checks bounce, and a federal law enforcement agency cannot operate as a debt collection agency for $18 bounce checks.
perhaps. But the biggest trap of all is the FD 258 card itself.
The fingerprint card.
Yeah, the physical card. Let's put the listener in the shoes of someone using the baseline route. You order the blue and white FD 258 cards.
Right.
You buy an ink pad. You sit at your kitchen table and try to roll your own prints. Or maybe you go to a local police precinct where an overworked officer rushes through it.
Yeah, it happens.
You press a little too hard on your left index finger and the ink smudges.
Okay.
Or there's a double impression on your thumb. You mail it in. The FBI's quality reviewers will reject that card because the ridges aren't clear.
Right, they have to.
But they don't call you that day. Your card can quietly burn 3 or 4 weeks in postal transit and processing queues before you receive a notification in the mail telling you that your prints were rejected.
Right.
You have just lost a month of your life, and you have to start the entire process over from scratch.
See, you're calling these mechanisms traps. I call them necessary precision.
But it's so brittle.
You're asking for a system that holds the biometric data of hundreds of millions of people to be forgiving a smudged data. It mechanically cannot be. Let me explain how a fingerprint match works. The system looks at minutiae points, like where a ridge ends or where it bifurcates into a Y shape.
Right.
If the FBI's quality reviewers begin accepting degraded, heavy-inked, or overlapping prints on an FD258, the classifier software can't map those minutiae.
Right, the software fails.
The integrity of the entire national database falls apart. The ridges have to be readable so they can be compared against the central repository.
Yeah.
When your card is rejected, it is not an act of bureaucratic malice. It is the system functioning exactly as it must to ensure that someone else's felony isn't accidentally attached to your background check because of a smudged thumb.
I understand the stakes.
So the strict rules, the payment forms, the precise name matching across your ID and your application, they are features of a secure system, not bugs.
But the system places all the risk and all of the delay entirely on the citizen.
I don't know about entirely.
If the FBI knows that print quality is the single biggest point of failure, why is the accessible route still so heavily reliant on an analog medium that is so easily smudged?
Well,
We live in an era where biometric capture can be instantaneous, yet the FBI's response is, well, you can use the electronic EDO route and know instantly if your print is good,
provided you happen to live near a participating post office and have an extra $50.
Right.
It demands absolute perfection from the public while offering no real-time error correction unless you pay a premium to a third party.
But the lack of real-time error correction in the mail route is a fundamental limitation of the physical medium. It's not a failure of policy.
I mean,
That is precisely why the live scan technology used by channelers and the USPS is so valuable, and why the FBI integrated it. When you use live scan, the digital scanner instantly assesses the quality of the fingerprint.
right, it gives you immediate feedback.
Exactly. If the ridges are too faint, the software flags it right there in the office, and the technician rolls it again before it is ever submitted. That is a massive technological leap forward.
True.
We cannot blame the FBI for the laws of physics, That ink on paper takes time to mail and review. They recognized the bottleneck and provided modernized electronic alternatives.
Provided you pay for them.
Well, yes.
And that delay from a rejected print isn't just an annoyance, it has massive downstream consequences, which brings me to the third major flaw in this system.
Okay, what's that?
For a huge percentage of users, those navigating immigration, foreign employment, or international adoption, the FBI document itself isn't even the finish line.
Oh, right.
It's just a prerequisite for another incredibly complex layer of federal bureaucracy.
You're referring to the Apostille process?
Exactly. So let's say you get an offer to teach English in South Korea, or you are applying for a residency visa in Spain.
Okay.
You get your FBI identity history summary. A foreign government will not just take the FBI's word for it. They require an apostille.
Right.
For those unfamiliar, an apostille is a federal authentication. Because a clerk in Madrid or Seoul doesn't know what a genuine FBI watermark looks like, they rely on a chain of trust.
Yes, which is pretty standard.
Right, so the FBI verifies your record. Then the U.S. Department of State verifies the FBI's signature and attaches an apostille certificate. Finally, the foreign embassy trusts the State Department. But the fragmentation of this process leaves users incredibly vulnerable.
How so? The chain of trust is standard international law.
The problem is how the EDO system handles it. The EDO portal does not seamlessly guide a user from the initial FBI request through the federal authentication needed for foreign governments.
Well, they're different departments.
Exactly. These agencies operate in entirely different silos and do not communicate. If you use a channeler to get your FBI report quickly via a digital PDF, you might find out weeks later that the State Department requires a physical, signed copy to issue the apostille.
Ah.
Because the EDO system doesn't ask you what your end goal is, applicants often realize too late they initiated the wrong type of request. They lose their visa window because they have to start the entire EDO 55673 process over again just to get the right paper format.
I have to push back strongly there.
Okay.
It is entirely unreasonable to expect the FBI's EDO portal to manage international diplomacy.
I'm not asking them to manage diplomacy.
The FBI's statutory mandate under Departmental Order 556-73 is solely to provide you with your identity history. They are a domestic law enforcement agency, not the State Department, and not a diplomatic concierge service.
But from the citizen's perspective, it is a single task. I need to prove my clean background to South Korea for my visa?
Right, but
The federal government's internal division of labor shouldn't result in a maze where one procedural misstep ruins a citizen's international plans.
look at the end result of that division of labor. The system works so well that it produces a globally trusted, classifiable set of records.
I mean, eventually, yes.
Foreign embassies, international adoption agencies, and foreign employers accept these identity history summaries precisely because the FBI maintains such rigorous, uncompromising standards for biometric capture and data integrity.
Right.
The fact that a State Department apostille can even be attached to this document is proof of its robust design.
Okay.
Yes, an applicant needs to understand that the apostille is a downstream step, but that requires basic life planning, not a fundamental overhaul of the FBI's mandate. If a user does their research and tells their fingerprint technician from day one that the document is headed overseas, they can ensure the request is formatted correctly for the State Department.
But that reliance on the user's pre-existing knowledge, or hoping a local fingerprint technician acts as a highly specialized guide, proves my point entirely.
How so?
The system itself doesn't guide you. You have to hope that the person sitting behind the desk at a local Identigo in Cambridge knows enough to warn you about the State Department's physical signature requirements.
Well,
If the federal infrastructure was truly modernized and citizen-centric, the EDO portal would ask you at the point of origin, is this for domestic use or international use, and route the logistics accordingly.
that would be a nice feature, sure.
Instead, it operates on strict, unforgiving compliance. It is a system designed for the convenience of the database, not the convenience of the human being whose data is inside it.
Let's look at how we might summarize our perspectives on this, because we've covered a lot of structural ground.
Yeah, we have.
I maintain that the architecture of Departmental Order 55673 is a highly effective model of biometric data management.
Okay.
Yes, it has strict, unbending requirements, no personal checks, perfect name matching across your IDs, and absolute ridge clarity on the FD258 cards.
Very unbending.
But those rules are the necessary guardians of the database's integrity. By offering the central EDO portal, integrating live scan technology through the Postal Service, and utilizing heavily vetted private channelers, the FBI has created a scalable, modernized model. It protects the biometric integrity of hundreds of millions of files while delivering rapid results for those who need them, all while preserving the baseline $18 route for standard public access.
And I maintain that the very necessity of those channelers and USPS capture fees highlights the core structural flaw.
Right.
The system remains overly reliant on private premiums to achieve anything resembling a reasonable modern speed. The unforgiving nature of the FD258 ink rejections, the silent delays that burn weeks of a citizen's time, and the lack of systemic guidance regarding ORI checks and international apostilles leaves ordinary citizens navigating a highly stressful bureaucratic maze.
Yeah.
The burden of absolute precision is placed entirely on the applicant, and any mistake, a smudged print, a misunderstood routing code, is paid for in lost weeks and missed life opportunities.
Though, despite our differing views on the bureaucracy surrounding it, I think there's one fundamental truth we have both circled back to throughout this entire discussion.
The biology of the fingerprint itself.
Precisely, because this system relies exclusively on ridge patterns rather than names or social security numbers. The quality of the fingerprint capture itself is the undeniable foundation.
Yeah, it really is.
It is the ultimate bottleneck of the entire process, regardless of whether you choose the EDO portal, pay a premium to a private channeler, or use the direct mail route. If the physical capture is flawed, no amount of expedited processing or private money can save the request.
We definitely converge there. The biometric reality dictates the terms of the entire system. You cannot digitize a smudge and hope the software figures it out.
No.
The friction we are talking about is built into our very skin.
Navigating identity bureaucracy requires an understanding of both the high-level policy and the practical, physical execution on the ground. When we look closely at how our society manages biometric data access, we have to weigh the public demand for speed against the absolute non-negotiable requirement for precision.
Right.
We will leave it to you, the listener, to decide which perspective on this intricate system holds more weight. But the next time you find yourself frustrated by the friction of a government process, just remember, sometimes the system is difficult because it's broken, and sometimes it's difficult because the key you're using isn't a password you can easily reset.
Yeah.
It's the unchangeable biological ridges on the tips of your fingers.
Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time.